I need to get on the road. Actually, I need to take a shower, then get on the road. But I wanted to do this video because this video was in the queue, and I wanted to get this, get down the videos that I wanted to get through. So Bernie Sanders has been having public spats with billionaires, and in some cases, actual companies, publicly asking, why is the price of this drug going from 0 to 375,000? And in another case, getting into a back and forth with Lloyd Blankfein. He was ex-CEO of Goldman Sachs, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to show the back and forth between these two. I'm going to do the story. This is another story that's in the queue that I want to do. Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer introduced legislation. I don't know if they've introduced legislation. I think they're going to put limits on corporate buybacks. Essentially, before CEOs can buy back stock, they need to invest in set minimums within the employees themselves. Now, the goal in this is pretty straightforward. They're trying to force companies, instead of giving themselves, raises and what these other things, and beefing up the value of the company for themselves. So, if their money is in stocks, beefing up the value of the company for the most part, it's great for the people at the top who have some of their money invested in stocks, not so much for the employees who are just working and not seeing the benefits of their labor. They're trying to force these guys to stop giving yourselves massive amounts of cash. Can you invest some into your employees? Lloyd Blankfein didn't like this, and he gets on Twitter and he gets his grievances off. Sanders, apparently ever vigilant, has words back at him, and I would imagine Sanders is the one that ends this, because that's the last Twitter thing that I see of this. But for those, I understand people who say Sanders have let him down and all this other stuff, but this is different. Come on. There is no time in my political space that I've been around where a presidential contender is openly and bald-faced punching various companies for fucking over their workers. I want him to punch them for fucking over their workers, but I've never seen him do it. When Trump was doing it, he was kind of browbeating them. Trump was playing a role. He wasn't necessarily believing that stuff. I mean, after all, he gave his people, the top 1%, trillions. Or you could say put trillions on the backs of the country itself by giving themselves billions of dollars in tax cuts. But this is different. I mean, this is somebody who believes it and who's actually pushing for these things to be changed. You could say one is an actor and the other one is a true believer. He's a true believer. I've never seen anything like this at least in my political awareness. Let's take a look at this, and we'll call it a day because I need to get on the road. So this is the legislation that these guys are introducing. I have it on right here, New York Times. They wrote an op-ed on this. They even did a video together on this. Schumer and Sanders limit corporate stock buybacks. And I think I highlighted a part of this that kind of sums up what they're talking about in this legislation. In other words, our legislation will set minimum requirements for corporate investment in workers and the long-term strength of the company as a precondition for a corporation entering into a share buyback plan. The goal is to curtail the over-reliance on buybacks while also incentivizing the productive investment of corporate capital. Give your employees more money, and then you can give yourselves more money. That's all. And try to put limits on it. I would say this is an aspect of the system itself. Everybody, if you can maximize your profit, you're going to do so. And you do so by amelioration of the working class. So, right here. Former Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein took to Twitter for the first time in almost 7 months to respond to New York Times opinion piece by Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders arguing for limits on corporate stock buybacks. The money doesn't vanish, Blankfein tweeted. It gets reinvested into higher growth businesses that boost economy and jobs. I love the way they just throw jobs out there. Jobs, they boost jobs. They're using jobs as a buzz term. It's like we're job creators. That's what we are. We're like magical fairies who create jobs. I hate that casting. They're also the people who lower wages. And by the way, government also can create jobs. You just have people who are in government who try to prevent it from doing so. But whatever. That's besides the point. Invest in your employees. It's not an excuse. We do this to build jobs. It's like, yeah, but what about the employees at your company who's not seeing the benefits of that? And also, let's be honest, you're doing those buybacks in order to give yourselves more cash. So right here, a company used to be encouraged to return money to shareholders when it couldn't reinvest in itself for good return. Right there, that's the catch. A company used to be encouraged to return money to shareholders when it couldn't reinvest in itself for good return. You can invest in your employees. That is investing in your company. Ensuring that your people get more in wages. Ensuring in the productive capabilities of the company itself. Those things are a benefit to your company. But you don't see that in a material sense of dollars and cents. To you, that's not the same thing as investing in your company. That is, he doesn't see it. The money doesn't vanish. It gets reinvested in higher growth businesses that boost the economy and jobs. Is that bad? This is in response to Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer's op-ed. Bernie Sanders, ever vigilant, responds to this. Lloyd Blankfein, the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, is correct that the money that stock buybacks doesn't vanish. It increases the wealth of billionaires like him. Instead of making the very rich even richer, how about increasing wages for American workers? Is that a bad idea? Because right here, a company used to be encouraged to return money to shareholders when it couldn't reinvest in itself for a good return. The money doesn't vanish. I guess the point that Sanders is making is investing in your employees is investing in the company. And you can invest in them by making sure that they have a living decent wage. Just saying, Sanders is right. He's been taking these guys out to the woodshed with his channel. Sanders and Schumer had argued that companies shouldn't be able to repurchase shares unless they first increase workers' pay and benefits. Agreed. I think Sanders should go further. I think worker co-ops should be on the queue. But I'll take it. Whatever you want to say. This is different. And I would even make the point that Schultz, getting into the presidential race, is a billionaire class that is somewhat freaked out by a Democratic Party that seems to be trending in a particular direction. Or at least some elements of the party seems to be trending in a particular direction. And the conversation, meaning the dialogue, the basis of argument, where that argument takes place and who has the energy in that argument seems to be towards the left, even though you haven't necessarily seen the policy changes for it. So I'm going to end this here. I will see you guys on Fault Lines this morning in maybe 3 hours. Thanks all. Have a good one.